So I've got a question for you. We talk about gender. What's gender difference?
The expectation that a society has from a boy and from a girl is different.
In July 2019, at Diversitate Settlement Services in Geelong, 15 young refugee women attended a 2-day consultancy.
Society has very different expectations about the way we behave as men or as women.
It was facilitated by Professor Eileen Pittaway from the Forced Migration Research Network at the University of New South Wales.
I was in Indonesia for 4 years and I'm a refugee. So I've seen sexual abuse for women, inequalities for women not getting their rights, and it's just so unfair.
In refugee camp, women they don't have much opportunity compared to men. For men, they are seen as the head of the family. They are the one who's working and stuff, and the women, they're the housewife.
Because of the sex we're born, we are treated differently.
This process is part of the implementation of the United Nations Global Compact on Refugees, which is a major new initiative to assist refugees.
We'll be going to Burma for people who've returned. We're going to Bangladesh for the huge intakes that have just come in. We're going to the Thai-Burma border for people who've been there forever. We work in Australia because we think it's equally important to have the voices of women who've been resettled.
As part of their response, the Australian government has funded the Forced Migration Research Network to conduct a research project focusing on refugee women and girls in a number of countries in Asia.
So we have argued that sexual and gender-based violence is the biggest barrier to women achieving gender equality.
A lot of women were abused sexually or physically.
So sometimes when I walk, when I saw men, I'm afraid. I can't help it because that's a trauma from the past.
Let's look at some of the labels this refugee woman's got. She's poor. Oh, look at that poor refugee. Oh, she's been raped. She's a victim. Poor thing. You've been here 2 years, you should speak better English, shouldn't you? So with all of those negative discrimination labels, in the end she just disappears. Here's another woman. She's a Muslim, I'm very proud of it. And she's a woman and she's proud of it. Despite the horrors, she's a strong refugee woman. She's a teacher, community leader. She's got her family together through camps, through flights, through getting to Australia, through everything. She's the head of her family. That's a pretty amazing woman. It's the same person. And the important thing is that we must never label people just with negatives.
This session was really about myself.
I learned about gender equality and how important it is for us women to speak up.
I just really like how the exercise make you think, and it made me feel how proud I am to be a refugee.
This is called a matrix exercise. So the problems are down the side. We're saying, is this a problem for girls, young women, older women? Is it a problem for people with a disability? Are the problems different?
You mean when they want to go to school?
Some girls, they're scared to walk alone on the
way to school, yeah.
The school material for a whole year, I use one book.
When we moved from Afghanistan to Pakistan, we haven't got the time to apply for visa or any travel document, yeah.
It was very hard for us to rent houses or find shelters.
There's no one to teach them how to.
I may be a girl, I may be a refugee, but I also have voice and I don't need to be afraid at all. For the disability, there's no support for them. They just seem as shameful. You're human, I'm human. Just because you're rich, just because you're white, doesn't mean that you can treat me differently.
When we first arrived in Australia, there has been many challenges. The language, unfamiliarity with the environment, with the culture.
To find a new house is really hard for us because our parents doesn't speak English.
With the rent, some agents are asking us to pay online, so that's also a struggle for our parents as well. Because of civil war, my parents fled to Tala refugee camp, and I was born there. In the refugee camp, we don't really have much opportunities. Like with education, it's very basic.
Some refugee children who were born in a refugee camp arrive in Australia having had no formal education at all.
Like I don't even know that the world is around. I always thought that it's like this house, so you have the roof and then like the ground. So I only found out that the world is around when I came to Australia.
Yeah, there wasn't any options to go to school and educate. So personally me, I tried to do my best and study from internet, but everyone wasn't like me. Being in a camp and being a refugee make them isolated. They just lost their help.
All about health, all about any education stuff. For LGBTI people, at school, if there's one rumor, they're like, oh, she's a lesbian, and then the whole rumor would start spreading, and then people just would avoid her.
The consultation began to look at solutions to the problems facing women and girls in refugee camps and in the resettlement process.
Do you want to draw?
Shows a man being in power and in charge, and women's being ignored. It makes them depressed, makes them cry.
There are some cultures that not allow their daughter to get education or to even get involved in society and religion. Also, women are not considered equal with men.
Now, these women are all depressed. What is it about not having control over your lives that makes you feel so depressed?
You're not being included. No one cares about you. No one knows your full potential. You're just being put down. And I think a way to stop it, to make campaigns. They tell the society that they're not agree with this. Women's opinion matters.
When women and men get equal participation in society, the country will overall develop better.
How do we bring the men along? Have you got any ideas about that?
If we could change through education the mindset among our society that gender equality is important for the growth of our community.
Educate the man and the son in the refugee camp to respect women.
We have a single mother. She doesn't have a safe house to live in, and she faces discrimination, so she's feeling depressed, fear. We will take care of creating a center where different single moms come and join together to talk together. She may be single, but she's happy now because she got all this support, and now her child have a brighter future, sunshine and rainbow again. Her life is happy, and then to live is to be free and feel safe.
The information gathered here will form part of a report to be presented to the United Nations in Geneva in December 2019.
We're all human, we all have the right to be respected, to not have fears.
We have right to speak up and participate.
It will be presented by 7 refugee women chosen from the countries where the consultations occurred, giving voice to women in their struggle for human rights, social justice and gender equality.